the old gods, who are the undead horrors, who are physical manifestations of the void, created by the Void Lords in order to find and corrupt slumbering Titan worlds. The old gods are mountains of flesh who grow like cancers within the worlds of the Great Dark. Four old gods, Yashari, Cthulhu, and Yurgon-Saren, and the Sloth ruled the planet of Azeroth during its primordial age, forming that they would become the Black Empire. When the Pantheon arrived, they sent their armies of Titan force to shatter the old gods' citadels and crumble their empire. The first god, Yashari, proven to be way too strong in the Titan Forge to defeat. However, they prompted their leader, Aman'Thul, to reach his arm down there and tear Yashari apart. In doing so, he had unintentionally created a giant gaping wound in the planet's crust from the arcane lifeblood. The Titans thus realized that the old gods have embedded themselves way too deep in the world's surface to be removed without destroying Azeroth itself. They instead decided to imprison the old gods below the surface of the world and contain their evil forever. Even though being incapacitated until recently, or possibly forgotten, the old gods are still to this day an influence in the very people and events in Azeroth, along with the Burning Legion that they are most powerful and reoccurring threats found over the Warcraft series, especially in the World of Warcraft Cataclysm, where they attempted to bring the end of the world in the Hour of Twilight. Yashari, bred from Azeroth by the Titans, remains well back to Azeroth, later known as Pandaria and the spawn of the Shah. However, the heart survived, placed under the veil of eternal blossom by Highkeeper Roth. Ages later, Garrosh Hellscream restored the heart by using the pools of the veil. Mantis, who used to serve under Yashari, came to aid Garrosh. After the heart's power was drained during the final confrontation with Garrosh at the end of Siege of Orgrimmar, that was the last grasp of Yashari fading from existence. Ninzov was the first old god to be neutralized by the Titan Forge. He was imprisoned in an underground prison some distance from West Ultimate, but since notably been responsible for the formidable growth in the Emerald Nightmare. During the Cataclysm, Ninzov was the driving force behind the actions of Deathwing. After Ninzov's fall, the old god Cthulhu was followed and sealed in a Titan Forge research station of AQ, where he would actually create Koari by mutating the Akir that would dwell underground. After his imprisonments by the Keepers, Cthulhu sent the Koari armies to conquer the world in the War of the Shifting Sands. Though they had almost succeeded in conquering nearly the entirety of Kalimdor, the Koari were defeated by combat forces of Night Elves and the Dragonfolks. In recent times, Cthulhu reawakened, prepared to take his revenge, but while in his gaze fixed upon the dragons and Night Elves, a group of mortals managed to breach his chamber and defeat him against all odds. Yurgon-Saren was the most powerful of the three and was imprisoned under the Titan city of Uldurar in Northrend. There he would actually colonate and inquire into the Anubrian, and would gain access into the Emerald Dream through the World Tree in Nerdastil, which he would share with his old god kin. Yurgon would manage to turn the Keepers who had guarded him against each other and corrupt them all, slowly breaking through all the last of their restraints. But thanks to the might of the Alliance and the Horde that aided by brave adventurers and the Keepers were free together, finally they had together destroyed the manifestation of Yurgon-Saren. From the moment the universe became the Beat, the dark spirits within the Void sought to twist the reality into endless torment and chaos. These Void Lords were envious of the Pantheon's powers and pulled their power and created the old gods to exert their influence over the Titan in their most vulnerable state, before it had awakened. Not knowing which planets contained the Titan world souls, the Void Lords then hurled their creation throughout the great dark beyond, hoping they would smash into the nascent Titans. The old gods began to contemplate the mortal worlds and everything else they touched in the bind of the search of the world's soul. Being creations of the shadowy Void Lords and the physical manifestations of the Void, the old gods are deeply intertwined with dark forces and control it directly. Many mortal followers enrich into the horrors and frequently use shadow magic, and shadow priests who deprive their powers from the Void stray dangerously close to the domain of the old gods. Seeing that the old gods have slammed into Azeroth's servants, enabling themselves in the various locations of the world. Despair soon to envelop everywhere that lay their writhing shadows, as the spread of corruptive influence across the land, all were seeing their trindles down through the world's crust, towards the planet's defenseless world soul. Two races, known as the Faceless Ones in Akir, arose to the organic matter that's seeping from the old gods. Massive bodies becoming practically loyal servants and built the great citadels and temples around the colossal forms of their masters. The greatest of these structures were built around Ashari, the most powerful of the old gods, and was holding the old ones will soon spread over Azeroth, eventually forming the Black Empire. When they arrived, the old gods enslaved the elementals that once raged freely on the primordial Azeroth. Though the fleeting empire, the elementals were mighty, but they could not stand against the constant swarm of the Faceless Ones in the Akir. Without the native spirits of Azeroth to counter the old gods' influence, the borders of the Black Empire crept much over the world. As the perpetual twilight descended, and the world spiraled into the abyss of death and suffering. These primordials were known as Ragnaros, Neptune, Alkir, and Therazane. Having now then been slayed by the Old Ones, they led their respective armies in an internal conflict that ravaged the world to no means of end. The elemental lords and lieutenants of the Old Gods were battling the Titan Forge. During their journey across the cosmos, the Titans eventually made their way to Azeroth and encountered the elementals, who vowed to drive the Pantheon back into the name of their Dark Masters. Upon discovering the deep insatiable hunger for destruction, the old gods, seeing themselves mercenarily evil, the Titans engaged in a war with them. Fearing that their enormous forms would severely harm or even kill Azeroth's world soul, the most powerful yet was even encountered by the Pantheon. The Titans, instead of created mighty servants to do battle for them instead, known as the Titan Forge. These beings waged war against the elemental servants of the old gods and eventually managed to defeat them and seal them into newly created elemental planes. One of the Titan Forge started to make their way towards the Bastion of Nishari. However, the Titans feared that their servants would not be able to stand against the old god's might. Thus, Amathul, the High Father himself, reached down through Azeroth's skies and heaved Nishari from the surface of the world. The old gods were instantly ripped apart in the wake of its death. The lifeblood of Azeroth's world soul rushed to the surface into a great wound, later known as the Well of Eternity. The Pantheon realized the old gods buried too deep to be exorcised from the Azeroth, and so they ordered the servants to instead imprison the vile gods rather than killing them. The campaign of the Titan Forge to remain these three long and brutal, but they eventually succeed in containing the old gods below the surface of the world. All the gods that we have been named to know in World of Warcraft are named from an outer god from H.P. Lovecraft mythos. Cthulhu is known from Cthulhu, which looks to be mixed between a human, a dragon, and an octopus, and stands about roughly 100 meters tall. And Yogg-Saron is known to be as Yogg-Sothoth, the one who knows all and sees all. Cohabited with time and space itself, apparently is locked out of the world in which we cohabit in. And Yasharav is known as Shab-Gurath, formerly known as the Black Goat of the Woods with 1,000 youth. And Nazoth is not referenced to any, which this is not canon. Some say he's named after Ny'alotha, which is the hunter of the Red Abyss, or the thing that should not be. In my next video, I will go more in depth about each god personally with their own lore, as well as the introduction to Sargeras, and as well as all the wars covering each god. War of the Shifting Sands, the Ancient Wars as well.